Hello everyone, Sai here with another Path of Exile 2 video. In this video I hope I will teach you all about getting tanky in the game, and I hope after watching this video you will have a much better understanding why you die in the game and how to avoid those deaths. But before I will go into all the different mechanics in detail, I want to give you guys some ideas, general ideas and tips how to stay alive without even thinking about mechanics and stuff. First of all, in contrast to Diablo 4, where the monsters will level with you, Path of Exile 2, just as Path of Exile 1, is a game where the monster levels are statics. And what I mean with this is, if you look at these zones, you can clearly see the monster level 6, and then it goes up to 7, 8, 10, and so on. So what you can do actually is you can full clear zones in the beginning, and then you will get a higher level than the zone you are in. So you can outlevel the monsters and therefore be relatively to the monster strength, be more powerful if you overlevel. And Path of Exile 2 actually encourages you to do so by adding like these icons in the map. And there's like a little plus there. I don't know if, for example, here's no plus. Maybe you won't get benefits from killing those monsters. But if you kill this silverback, you will get a bonus to your character's power. It can be many different things. It can be skill points, it could be a specific rare that drops, or some resistances that you gain permanently. So if there's an icon in an area, make sure to explore the zone until you find something, and that will naturally make it so that you overlevel, and then the bosses you will encounter later will be way easier than if you just go straight rushing to a boss. Also, make sure that you keep upgrading your gear. For example, you drop gold in the game now, and this gold can be used for gambling or from buying specific gear for a set amount of gold from another vendor. Early on, I would suggest if you have like a crappy weapon, try to get a better weapon with the gold system, and that way you will get some early flat added damage to your attack skills, for example, which will boost your damage by quite a bit. Then there's another thing. Ailments are in the game, and the game gives us something to fight those ailments. For example, here is a charm that is used when you become frozen, and it also grants immunity to being frozen. So this is very important to have. The two biggest ailments to fight this way would be freeze and shock. Shock makes you take a lot more damage, so you also want a charm for being shocked. And a third element that can be very dangerous is bleed. Then also one big thing, I think it's still in the game, the pause function. So whenever you have a debuff, which will be in the upper left corner around here, is the debuff list. And whenever you encounter a new debuff icon that you don't know, just pause the game, hover over the debuff and understand what it's doing, and then you can of course react to the debuff. The last thing I want to talk about is monsters in Path of Exile have like very well telegraphed attacks, and if the attack looks dangerous, it's a very good idea to try to dodge those attacks, because most of the time they will be devastating attacks and maybe even one-shot you. And also don't forget to take some defensive nodes on your tree. Don't only go for damage, maybe take some armor nodes or evasion nodes or whatever, block nodes. And you could even think about, like, if you use a two-handed weapon, maybe you can try to wear a one-handed weapon with a shield, these kind of things. Okay, those were the things that I wanted to talk about before getting into the mechanics in detail. Now let's go back to Path of Exile 1 in-game, and I can start to discuss all these different nodes. First of all, if it's still possible, getting Bleed Immune and Corrupted Blood Immune on a life class is very, very nice. So in Path of Exile 2, in order to have a strong defensive character, you generally want to mix different mechanics that all make you tanky. In our community, this is often referred to layer your defensive mechanics. If you look at all the different mechanics there are, you can categorize them in mainly 4 different topics. The first one is your raw HP pool. The second one would be mitigation, so reducing incoming damage. The third pillar would be avoidance, don't get hit. And the fourth and final one would be recovery, so getting your life back. So first of all, the raw HP pool can consider traditionally of 2 things. One is the life pool, the second would be your energy shield pool. There are also some other measures that could increase your raw HP pool, and one of the main ones will still exist in Path of Exile 2, Mind over Matter. And Mind over Matter will be different, will be even stronger in Path of Exile 2. There's also an Ascendancy, the monk, the Chayula monk, which can convert its spirit to another source, and that can count as your life. The Titan has 20% more life. The Blood Magic Ascendancy grants you overflow life remnants that you can pick up on the ground, which kind of can double your life. So there's a lot of different stuff that can increase your life. But if you talk about the main things, that is just life on gear. This will be your main source on increasing your life, and also strength. Strength in Path of Exile 1, it only gives you 1 life. I think this will be doubled in Path of Exile 2. So strength is also very important. If you want to life stack, you kind of want to have a big life roll on gear and then a big strength roll on gear. For energy shields, that is the implicit on a base. Let's see here, for example, the boots have armor 82 and energy shield 17, and then you can, on rare items, you can roll increased energy shield percentage and also flat added energy shield on that gear piece, which will increase the energy shield. And then you can pick nodes on the tree that will increase your energy shield, like this one. Increase maximum energy shield. In Path of Exile 2, those numbers will be way higher, so I think it will be easier to get to a very high energy shield life pool. That's it. That's for the raw HP pool. Then let's talk about mitigation. Get this chart here. What you can see here is fire resistance, cold resistance, lightning resistance, and chaos resistance, and all my values here are 75, but I'm also overcapped. So I could increase my fire resistance by another 30, but the mitigation that I get will still be 75%. In order to get higher fire mitigation, I would need to get sources of maximum resistances like this node, +1 to all maximum resistances. This sounds like a very minor effect, but these nodes are actually very powerful, and the more of maximum elemental resistances that you get, the better. Another reason to overcap your resistances is that monsters can actually curse you or shred your resistances by giving you like exposure. And in PoE 1, I think the kind of safe state would be like around having like 25% more resistances than you actually need is another safety space for the occasions that your resistances get shredded. The next mitigation mechanic that I want to talk about is armor. Armor is a stat that will defend you against any physical damage. Armor works best against small hits. If the boss will slam you with a big fist hit, armor becomes way less powerful, and that is why the last stat on this gear piece, additional physical damage reduction 8%. This is a very strong stat, and I think it will be in PoE too, so try to get this on armor pieces and shields if you are a armor based character, because how the formula works is that the flat percent physical damage reduction will be applied first, which will decrease the number of the incoming hits, and then your armor will be way more efficient against bigger hits. To sum up, armor is good for mapping and getting rid of small hits, and in maps you get swarmed by enemies, so it's a very good stat. Once you fight bosses, additional physical damage reduction percentage wise is way better. One other mechanic that fits into the mitigation pillar is to reduce the incoming damage by reducing the monster damage, and there are a few ways to do this. I think one very strong one in Path of Exile 2 is Enfeeble, combined with Blasphemy. This will be a very potent combination to reduce incoming damage. Another thing would be the Infernalist Ascendancy node, where you get a Hellhound, and that Hellhound will take 20% of your incoming damage instead of you. So that is also a very strong option. Basically gives you a 20% damage reduction. So the next area where you can make your character way more tanky is Avoidance. The first avoidance mechanic I want to talk about is evasion. So this chest gives you evasion, for example, and all that evasion will be calculated here. So I have 16,000 evasion, and that gives me a chance to evade 66% of incoming hit. This basically reduces the incoming damage by 66% if you get attacked by a huge amount of numbers of monsters that always deal the same amount of damage. That is where evasion really shines. It is, for example, a good idea to get armor and evasion, or armor and block, so that way you reduce the incoming physical hits, but you also don't get hit by every single one attack of every monster. You don't actually have to scale evasion to the moon. I mean, of course, the more you invest into it, the higher the number gets, but getting like 70%, something around that number is already very good and will make you way more tankier. To make evasion even stronger, there's also a mechanic which is called blind in the game. Blind makes it so that it's basically a multiplier on the chance that the minion will hit you. So right here I have 66% chance to evade. If I blind an enemy, that will give me like maybe 75% chance to evade, something like that. Then there's the very strong ability in Path of Exile 2, which is called Raise Shield. When you equip a shield, you will always have the skill called Raise Shield, and once you click it, all incoming hits, projectiles that are in front of you won't hit you. But it will give you a stun threshold meter, and once the stun threshold meter is full, then you can't raise your shield anymore and everything will hit you. So when you want to work with that skill, it's a good idea to make it less likely to get stunned. There are a lot of nodes in the tree that will increase your stun threshold, so probably a good idea to take some of those if you want to make use of the raise shield skill a lot. But shields are even more powerful. In addition to the active raise shield skill that you have to press, all shields still have the chance to block, and there are a lot of nodes on the tree that gives you flat amount to your block chance, so +4. If there are nodes on the tree that grants you maximum block chance, those are very valuable because same as with the maximum resistances, the more you get, the more value you get. It's like kind of multiplicative increase of chance to block. So those stats are very, very valuable. And I think block chance will be crazy important in Path of Exile 2 to make a tanky character. In Path of Exile 1, you had to cap your block chance 2 times because there are attacks and spells in Path of Exile 1, and still many people would do that because it's such a good mechanic to get tankier. In Path of Exile 2, you only have to cap that block chance once because there's no differentiation between attacks and spells anymore. Another way to avoid a lot of incoming damage is by slowing enemies, freezing them, stunning them, dazing them, electrocuting them. Just make the monsters not attack you. Very, very powerful way of defense. So for example, cold skills in Path of Exile 2 might do a little bit less damage than, let's say, lightning skills, but to make up for this damage gap, you actually get a very, very nice defensive stat that is called Chill, which will slow the action speed of monsters. You could also slow the monster's action speed. When I say action speed, I mean the movement speed and also the animation speed of a monster. So like if the monster does like a one-shot mechanic, you will have way more time to get out of this one-shot mechanic. And so temporal chains will also be way stronger than in PoE 1. Once again, if you combine that with blasphemy, you don't even have to press the temporal change, so as long as the monster is in your vicinity, it will always be slowed. Very, very strong mechanic, and many content creators in Path of Exile 2 will actually think that this will get nerfed. So as long as it's in its unnerved state, make use of these three gems: blasphemy plus enfeeble plus temporal chains. The last area that I want to talk about is recovery. Early in game, recovery, like flat amount of regen, if it's on a tree or like there is a amulet base that gives you a tiny bit of flat regen. These are actually crazy strong because if you have a little bit, your life is not high at the beginning, so the percentage that you will gain from tiny amounts of flat regen is actually quite high, and it will alleviate the pressures of life last, so you don't have to press the life last again and again. You just can like run away a little bit from monsters, and then you will have your life back without pressing your life last. Especially like in boss fights, this can make the difference of succeeding and dying. Later on, you want to switch from flat regen to percentage based regen, but early on, flat regen is really strong. Also in the beginning, like this 22 energy shield now for this character is like nothing, but in the first few levels, this amount of energy shield would be really, really good because energy shield has the ability to recharge itself without doing anything. All you have to do is not getting hit for 4 seconds, and then the 22 energy shield with this character would get from 0 to 22 in like, I don't know, a very short amount. Then you could also invest into life last nodes on the tree. In general, in Path of Exile 1, this wasn't really worth it. There was one Ascendancy, the Pathfinder, that had a mechanic where the life last wouldn't stop when your life is full. Maybe Pathfinder has this ability still, and that would be very strong. And if that ability is there, investing into life recovery nodes like this one would be really good. The percent increased maximum life won't exist in Path of Exile 2, but the increased life recovery from life last, maybe a better example is this one, which just gives you increased life recovery from flask. So these nodes can be strong, but in general, in endgame, you probably won't use those, but maybe early on you could spec into it. Always remember that it's very easy to respec nodes with gold in Path of Exile 2, so just explore the tree and the mechanics that you could make use of. Find if you like them, and if you don't like them, just unspec the nodes afterwards. Then I talked about it earlier. There are mechanics in the game on the tree that will give you life on block. There's one very potent node. I think it's called Aegis on the nodes, on the passive skill tree, and that one will give you 1% of your armor as energy shield when you block. So for example, in this case, I would get 70 energy shield every time I block. You can easily scale your armor to like 20,000, and then it is a very good idea. I think it will be very strong to get, even if you are like a life-based character, get a little bit of energy shield, let's say like 500 or something like that, and then you can make use of this insane node, which is called Aegis. Then there's also maybe life on hit sources. I don't know. In Path of Exile 1, the claw base type can grant you life per hit, but there are also like special bases in rings that give you life on hit. I think there will be some sources of life on hit in the game, maybe even like a support gem. And that can be if you have like an attack that hits a lot of different enemies, that can easily, like if you have like 60 life on hit, that can easily be like thousands of life per second in the end game setup. Also leech, leech is a very strong thing, and I think there are also sources of overleech where once you have full life you will get like a second fortified life or whatever you want to call it, which basically doubles your life. So that is a very strong mechanic as well. Yeah guys, that's it. That's all the mechanics that I can think of. I'm sure that I forgot some mechanics in there. Let me know in the comments. Um, as always, if you like this content, please subscribe and like the video. I will do a lot of more beginner-friendly guides in the future, and I will also do build guides and all that stuff. So yeah, if you have any questions, leave a comment below. I will answer all the comments, and see you in the next one.